How do you calm the physical symptoms of a panic attack? Hi, I'm Misty Smith. I'm a licensed mental health counselor, and I am here to help others find meaning, joy, and purpose in their lives. As a person-centered counselor, I believe in meeting people where they are and that we all have the capacity for self-healing. Sometimes we need a little guidance and support to get to where we want to be. Today, I want to talk with you about some techniques to help calm physical symptoms of anxiety, including symptoms of a panic attack. First, let's talk about what anxiety feels like in your body. Many of you out there have likely experienced physical symptoms of anxiety. I want you to keep in mind that not all anxiety is bad. It serves a purpose. It's our body's warning system that lets us know something isn't right. When we have anxiety disorders, it becomes difficult to distinguish between real threats and imagined ones. So let's start with identifying symptoms of anxiety. Could it be shortness of breath, tightness in your chest, elevated heart rate, sweaty palms, feeling shaky all over, feeling lightheaded? When these symptoms arise, it can be very scary. Often, it's hard to recognize this is anxiety or a panic attack and not something physically wrong. Many people report feeling a pending sense of doom. That's terrifying, right? I often ask my clients who are experiencing panic attacks to start keeping a journal to help identify symptoms, triggers, and existing coping skills. If you're open to trying this, write down these 3 questions. What happened right before I started to feel this way? What does it feel like in my body? And once those symptoms have subsided, what helped me to feel better? Once we're able to identify the physical symptoms of anxiety, it can be helpful to recognize that what we are experiencing is likely a panic attack. This makes it easier for us to start learning how to cope with and calm these symptoms. Here are a few of my go-to strategies to manage, decrease, and often stop the symptoms of a panic attack. The ice cube technique. This method comes from the cognitive behavioral therapy model, or CBT for short. When you begin to feel the physical symptoms of anxiety that you identified earlier, grab an ice cube. If you're at home, this may be fairly easy, but if you're not, it can be significantly more challenging. I purchased the plastic ice cubes that you can get at most grocery stores, and I hand those out to my clients. You may also buy some of the small 8-ounce water bottles and keep them in the freezer so you can grab one on your way out the door. It'll stay cold for hours in most situations. Once you have your ice cube, I want you to hold it in one hand for as long as you can tolerate the cold. When it gets too intense, switch it to your other hand. Continue doing this as long as you need to until the symptoms subside. This technique can stop the symptoms of a panic attack in as little as 2 minutes, and it works on 2 fronts. First, it gives the adrenaline produced by anxiety somewhere to go. It's fighting the feeling of coldness in your hand. The physical sensation of the ice also distracts your mind from the anxious and intrusive thoughts. Now let's look at some breathing exercises. My favorite is the 4-7-8 breathing technique. This combines mindfulness with controlled breathing to help decrease physical symptoms of anxiety and panic attacks. You breathe in for a count of 4, hold your breath for a count of 7, and exhale for a count of 8. Notice I said count of, not seconds, because we all have different breathing rhythms. This is what it looks like. An interesting note about this exercise is when we inhale, our heart rate increases, and when we exhale, our heart rate decreases, which is why we want the out breath to be twice as long as the in breath. This is going to help us get our heart rate down and decrease the physical symptoms of anxiety. The next technique is grounding. This technique I find particularly helpful in walking a client through when they're having a panic attack. One way to use grounding is the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 technique. Engage your senses. The goal of this exercise is to bring your focus to the present moment. You identify 5 things you can see, 4 you can touch, 3 you can hear, 2 you can smell, and 1 you can taste. I know firsthand that sometimes during a panic attack, it can be difficult, if not impossible, to remember all 5. So I like to try to pick 2 senses to focus on. My personal favorites are sight and touch. So I try to find 5 things I can see and 4 things I can touch. Your senses may be different. You might have a different favorite. Another grounding technique is using your senses to explore an object. Here's how it works. Choose any object. I'm going to use this turtle figurine that I keep on my desk. I want you to notice, observe, and describe the object. I want you to notice and observe without judgment. Is it heavy or light? Is it hard or soft? Is it smooth or rough? Does it have a temperature? What does it look like? Remember, we're not judging the object, simply describing it. What color is it? Does it have any type of pattern on it? Maybe you can try to trace the pattern with your fingertips. You might want to engage other senses as well. Does it make any type of sound when you explore it? Does it have a smell? Grounding yourself in the moment is a helpful coping skill to manage situational anxiety and decrease baseline anxiety. The 4th and final technique that I'm going to share with you today is removing yourself from the immediate environment. Remember earlier when I said not all anxiety is bad and that it serves a purpose to alert us when something doesn't feel right? That's because our brains are wired for survival. They want to keep us alive, not happy. The structure in the brain that senses threats is called the amygdala. And when a threat is detected, real or imagined, it sends signals to our body to prepare to fight or run away, fight or flight. It also sends signals to your prefrontal cortex, your thinking brain, to go offline. This is where our judgment, decision-making, impulse control, and problem-solving all occur. This is an evolutionary response. If a bear were to burst into this room right now, I don't need to think about what type of bear it is. I simply need to get to safety. Thankfully, bear attacks are not frequent in my office building. However, my brain doesn't know the difference between a real threat and an imagined one. Today, we live in a world where we are often bombarded with information such as emails, notifications, text alerts, phone calls, people asking questions. And when we become overloaded, the threat can feel as real as if a bear were charging toward us. Often, removing yourself from the immediate environment can send the signal to your brain that you are no longer in danger. Get up, go to another room, walk outside, splash some water on your face, grab something to drink, or engage in a mindful task. Once you're able to allow those symptoms to subside, you can return to the task you were working on. So I'd like you to try these 4 techniques to see if you can decrease the intensity and frequency of your panic attacks. You may even want to try them when you're not feeling completely overwhelmed to help the coping techniques become more accessible when you do need them. Doing this will also help to lower your baseline stress level to improve your tolerance to frustration. Hopefully, once we learn to manage our anxiety, it will open us up to spend more time focusing on activities that bring us joy. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video, and I look forward to sharing more tips with you soon.